stop beating your gums and sound the attack.
All right, hello, and welcome everyone to another episode of the We Got the Chocolates podcast. This will in fact be episode number 41. Welcome back, guys. I'm with Mitch and Haz, as per usual, as you've come to expect. How are you, boys?
Good, mate. Hi, everyone.
I'm also good.
Haz in a different location tonight, actually, due to the social distancing that we are practicing. So, Haz, how are you feeling? Settling in?
Yeah, much safer now. I'm spread out. So.
Outstanding. Now, guys, you probably are wondering, obviously, what the song is.
I am.
The techno.
This is called Elevators Need Rock 2.
Oh, okay.
Elevator music.
Elevating music. Is that what you said?
No, but
elevator
I'll go with that.
music.
I think
Some
mine was,
sort of rock.
mine was cleverer,
Yeah,
obviously.
clever rock.
This was by Spence, which leaves you in absolute suspense as well. It's 2 in a minute. Somebody stop him. What in the world is that?
I really wish someone would, yeah.
I don't mind it, actually. It's good.
This has easily been our best one for mine.
Yeah.
Lethal
Yeah.
early votes for best
Yeah.
on ground.
Got a little bit of like modern.
It's even got like some sort of voice in
Oh,
there.
yeah, there's lyrics.
bit of classical, bit of modern. That's all
I
right.
don't mind that. Well, get it in. Guys, remember that it is free, so you should probably consider the free options before paying for one. That's for sure. Okay, what do we got today? There's plenty happening. Skin Stats is obviously back, and we have missed that. That is for sure.
Yep.
We have a chat with the listener who was written into the show, and we also have a new, what would you call it? Like sort of a new contest, I guess, that we'd like to try and launch. So without further ado, let's get into it, please. Just a general catch up here, guys. I was wondering if anyone knows how you are meant to use that sort of charcoal stuff on your teeth. Has anyone noticed that my pearly whites are looking slightly whiter?
Yeah, well, last week they were looking yellow from the alchemy turmeric beverage that you were
They're
drinking.
actually still looking quite yellow if you look closely.
Right.
I find that cleaning my teeth each day normally and going to the dentist every 6 months helps, but
No, Haz, I obviously
they-
do those things as
No,
well. But
you
that's
don't.
I do too. I don't make my bed, but I do brush my teeth.
and you go to the dentist.
What's that?
Exactly.
How often are you meant to go? One every 3 years?
Every
or
6
something?
months.
Oh, yeah. Well, I haven't done that either. I'll go at the same time as I wash my bed sheets and we'll be fine.
Yeah, okay.
That will work well. No, well, I don't know. That charcoal thing, you apparently it's meant to make them whiter, but I scrubbed it on yesterday and I feel like the whole thing just went black, which defeated the purpose, I would have thought. So I haven't seen great improvements, but then my sister, Bronnie, came around today and said that you're actually not meant to apply it like normal toothpaste. There is a slightly more technical way to put it on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I can't say I've got any experience to tell you how to do it, but I saw you put it on yesterday, and I'm definitely thinking not like that.
Not the way.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
expensive stuff, is it?
I couldn't
really
say
just
that I
wasted
paid
it,
for it,
yeah.
which you'll be impressed by. Haz.
Smart.
That's right, exactly. Now, a couple of other guests in the studio tonight. Obviously, Ruby, asleep in the background. For those that are looking at the podcast, you will see her, I think, in one of the camera angles. And then, huge news, Mitch, Eloise back.
Oh, yeah,
for
she is.
probably, I don't know, out of the 41 episodes, I reckon she's been here for 3, but
Yeah.
claims to have been here
Uses
for all
it,
40.
yeah. Uses it as an excuse to not listen to our podcast. Thank you, Eloise, for your support.
This is
I
one-
listen to it live.
Yeah, this is one she won't listen to, that's for sure, because she's listened to it live, and that's
Not
her
to mention
excuse that she runs with.
she's come to our podcast and stolen my computer. So if anyone watching the podcast, I'm still operating on the same little Toshiba that I've always had, but I have actually upgraded in the last week. But Eloise
Haven't you
has
ever?
stolen.
But yeah, I've got a
so-
Brisbane Lions sticker on that one though, which is handy.
Yeah, exactly. I had to get that in the shot. So.
Make sure we keep that one. All right, first story that I've got for you guys. I wanted to call out exaggeration. Here's an example that I have for you. I've been listening to a lot of people sort of say, "Oh, this is the best meal you'll ever have," or the best, I don't know, like the best game of footy that you'll ever watch, the best game of footy we've ever been involved in. And I just feel like we sort of just throw that around so much. It's not an overused sporting buzz phrase because it's used in so many elements of life. But I wanted to bring your attention to one particular example where I feel like claiming that something is the best can really get you into trouble. India tour. 2019, April, so roughly just over a year ago. We were all having a great time. Obviously, Haz, you've been on the India tour as well. You know that we do eat a lot of curry.
Correct, yes.
Featuring rice.
Thankfully,
but
I love my
definitely curry.
yes.
Yeah, you were fine with it. We had curry tonight, actually. But yeah, we sort of ate plenty of curry, which we were fine with because it was delicious. We were probably on day 7. It was getting a little bit tedious, but no whinging. Everyone sort of hears stories about how sick you get when you go to India. We had no issues in that fashion. But then on the 7th night, at the same restaurant that we'd been going to for the whole week, lady came up to us and said, "Guys, you've got to try my pizza. It's the greatest pizza in the world." We're in India.
Wow.
greatest pizza in the world. Okay. Vegetarian pizza, Skinnle. So,
great news. Probably was then.
Still would add cheese on it. Great. Yep. So vegetarian pizza, greatest in the world. I sort of thought, well, I can't obviously turn that down. That's something I am going to have to eat. There was 2 people in our touring squad that did not try the pizza, which I don't know how they didn't. Obviously, weren't tempted by the sort of exaggeration chat. I just heard it's the greatest pizza of all time, and that was me, hook, line, and sinker. I've wrapped in.
Leave India knowing that you let off that opportunity to take.
Exactly. Well, that's certainly. I thought that I was going to India for cricket, and if I go there and the bonus sort of gift is the greatest pizza of all time, that's something that was unexpected. So I had to take that opportunity. Unfortunately, the opportunity probably cost me quite some hours of sleep that night, as I was slammed against the toilet bowl for the entire evening. So I was sort of thinking at this stage, like, oh, that's a shame. Like, obviously, just poor timing. India can get you. You can get sick from anywhere. Probably didn't sanitize enough. Similar to coronavirus, I guess, in that fashion. However, when I woke up the next morning, I obviously didn't go down to breakfast, but the reports coming from breakfast were that 3 people from the 15 that we had touring had made it to breakfast because the rest were absolutely destroyed and knocked out so we realised that the suspect was actually the pizza. The one person that I know definitely did not get sick was Corey Hunter, who you obviously spent some time with in the Bull squad. Yep. The reason that he did not get sick is because for the entire trip, for the 14 days, he ate only rice.
It doesn't surprise me. He's very serious about when he has an idea about something, he'll stick with it. That's for sure. Strong-willed.
Right. What would the idea be there though? Like, surely rice isn't enough to keep you going.
No, carbs.
It's only go right.
Carbs, that's all right.
Plenty of carbs, Skinner. Rice is across a lot of food groups, Skinner.
Is it?
No, you don't.
You don't need more than just carbs.
You don't need it, no.
Nutrients, minerals, vitamins.
Skinner has is a fake physio, and you're asking him for dietary. Don't take his word; it's gospel.
Probably not great for your long term, but.
Okay. Any examples, guys, that you've had sort of that exaggeration? So I'll summarise by saying I don't think that actually is the greatest pizza I've ever had. It tasted okay, in fairness, but probably not sort of at the expense for what it could have came with.
Yeah, right. Not great risk-reward ratio there. To be honest, this has been in the show notes all afternoon. I still haven't thought of an example. I feel like people do say that all the time in heaps of sort of areas. That this is going to be the greatest something, but yeah, I've got nothing springing to mind. Have you got anything to work with?
Oh, yeah, people love labelling something as the greatest, especially at the moment, looking through highlights and people posting videos of cricket innings or rugby league matches. They like to say it's the greatest. Yeah. But, I mean, you hear a lot of people around the cricket circles, they go to training and you see their cricket bats and they go, mate, this is the best bat of all time. This is the greatest bat I've ever picked up. And then you pick it up and you think, this feels terrible. And you hit a couple of balls with it and you go, this is the worst bat I've ever picked up. How can you think this is a good cricket bat?
And then you give them one with a no-tox sticker on it, has an unbelievable all of a sudden, out of the screws.
Yeah, every kookaburra with a no-tox sticker on it, just goes that much better.
Perfect. And some New Balance shoes, as long as you're wearing them as well, then we're fine. Outstanding. Now, you actually took me skating the other day.
Skateboarding,
yeah, not ice skating.
No. Just to clarify for anyone out there.
Yeah, no, skateboarding. Can I just get some general feedback on sort of, did I surprise you with my natural athleticism? What were you sort of thinking?
You certainly didn't surprise me, but that's because you didn't perform very well at all.
So you had low expectations.
Yeah, I had low expectations. It was tough. We went down to the BMX track, the local BMX track, which is bitumen. A bit of a pump track there. You don't have to push to keep going. You just pump down the line on the hills, and it's tough work. First up, it's tough to get the hang of it. Mitch actually went down the other day as well, a few days before you, Leigh. He didn't find it too easy either, the first tryout. But
that's very, very good to hear.
yeah. But I reckon if you come down a few more times, both of you will get the hang of it. You'll start, feeling why I go down every day. And
I'll tell you what, my wrists, and you'll see the bark I've taken off me here, they still have not recovered. I've been in strife ever since. I fell hard a couple of times.
I lost a bit of skin myself every now and then, trying for something I probably shouldn't. But you weren't trying for for too much where you're just trying to get
trying to
round.
go in a straight line. just get on the thing would have been handy. Has told me that I was actually standing too far forward after I'd fallen off 3 times, so that was quite nice feedback.
That's worth
I thought I'd let you have a bit of trial and error first, but
Thank you.
I feel a bit ripped off here because it sort of sounds like you've thrown me in the same sort of standard as Leighthal. Please tell me I had him.
No, you were better. I think Mitch, you got about 4 laps in the end.
Yeah, I ended up going.
I think Leigh might have got through 1 lap once.
Not
maybe.
a full lap.
Not
it
a
was
full
like a
lap,
quarter
yeah.
of a lap.
Yeah.
And I got through halfway. I just kept trying to beat it. I can't get any speed. It was piggish to watch. That would have been bad.
I don't think anyone was watching it either because it was pitch black. I think it was at 7 p.m.
Yeah, that also did not help, I'll be honest. That was probably not ideal skating conditions. And one of your other loves in life has surfing. You've got some news on that, I think.
Yeah, well, in it also regards to skating, but in California, surfing's banned in most beaches, and skate parks are also closed. And in Australia, skate parks have been closed for a while as well, certain ones. But over there, they've gone as far as to stop people using the skate park. They've covered the concrete in sand. So
that is a great effort.
Yeah, they've just brought in trucks full of sand and tipped it over the skate park so people can't ride their skateboards on it.
Jeez.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I need beach cricket, though. California, probably not that well known for its beach cricket. Would have thought. Yeah, perfect.
I'd take it that there's no equivalent to trying to stop people from surfing, even though that's banned. Are people still just out surfing, or what?
Nah, people get fined if they go out surfing, but
okay,
yeah.
I'll tell you what, I'm reasonably confused. And we're not hugely political here, this podcast, but we tackle anything. I'm slightly confused by what we're allowed to do and what we aren't allowed to do. I know Haz is all over it, but I went to Wellington Point today. And there were, honestly, I don't think I'm exaggerating here with the greatest of all time type of chat. Oh, yeah. There were 4 million people.
4 million people at Wellington Point.
It was a genuine lineup to get there.
How long is that going to last?
Were stacked up.
I mean, people were starting to realise how good nature is, and they're always going to be out there now.
That's right. Yeah. So everyone wants to. I was like, okay, so we still can't open, obviously, gyms and stuff, but 19,000 people can walk to King Island at the same time. It seemed that's obviously very niche chat for anyone that lives outside the Redlands. I apologise. I did
hear a good story of back to the California surfing. There was a couple of guys who owned a boat and they thought it'd be a good idea. They could get in and get out pretty quickly without being fined. So they parked their boat out the back of Trestles, Lower Trestles in California, renowned surfing break there. And early morning, so it was dark, parked their boat, paddled them, caught a few waves, and then they were both paddling back out again, and they saw their boat caught a wave in past them, had been tipped over. Obviously, they hadn't parked it far enough out the back, and a set wave had come through and knocked the anchor out and tipped the boat over, and their boat washed up on the rocks. And they both had their wallets and their phones and their iPads in the boat, lost all of that, got fined at the same time. So.
Got a fine. Perfect.
So just to cap it off.
Okay. Guys, I'm going to play the little sound effect here. After the jingle, we are going to chat to a listener of the show. Now, Mitch, the next person that we are speaking to is actually just a listener of the show, really. You know how much we love to sort of get our listeners involved, and you're probably going to take the reins a little bit on this one, because this was an email that you spotted from a particular listener that you wanted to get involved. We've actually got him on the line now. You can't hear him yet. I haven't faded him in. Right. But can you take the listeners through what you saw in that email?
So we've got Tim on the line who sent in an email, I think, just in general discussion about some of Leithal's poor habits. And apparently, I understand he works with you as a teacher and let us know that you've gone to coach a game of cricket and managed to forget the vast majority of the equipment. That's my understanding. So
we got you there.
Hoping we can get a bit more.
Yeah, boy. Yeah. There you going, boys. Long time listener, first time caller. How you going?
Absolutely. Yeah, we get a few of those, actually, and then they never seem to call back again, unfortunately.
That's all right.
Thanks for being with us, Tim. Unfortunately, I probably know what you're talking about, but if you just want to give everyone else a little bit of context, and then I can fill in the blanks, I guess, try and defend myself if you like.
Sure, Leighthal. We've got a proud history of cricket at our school that we've been involved in for a number of years, and been very successful, and I'd like to say that I've taken some of the credit for that because I've coached a couple of teams, had some very strong kids coming through, and anyway, there's this young up-and-coming teacher coming through. I heard he played a bit of cricket on our teaching staff, so I thought, well, this is a chance for me to step aside and show that, sort of pave the way, I suppose, for the younger generation to come and take the reins. And so you've taken the role of the sort of chief cricket selector, coach, etc. for our school the last couple of years. And yeah, look, I didn't get I got a bit of hearsay came back to me about this particular incident. I wasn't actually there at the time. So I probably can't do it justice, but I know that you'd be able to certainly encourage tell the listeners exactly what happened with that fiasco a few weeks back.
Yeah, I can. Essentially, we were looking to get creative with the cricket. We were forced to get creative. That was not actually the plan at all. We rocked up, all kids on the bus, which I thought was very good teaching.
That's a good start for you, actually. It's almost a good start.
Yeah, marked roll and everything. And then sort of, cricket kits on, bring your own big gear, guys. Make sure you got a box and gloves. And I'm unsure if everyone even met that criteria, but that's okay. We rocked up at the ground, and as I reefed open the kit, obviously first game of the season, hadn't checked the team kit. We were without a few key ingredients. One of them was a ball, but obviously luckily that was easily solved due to the fact that we just used one that was 180 overs old and been tuned by a dog.
Perfect.
So that was fine. And then our boys had to unfortunately come out and face a brand new Red King, so probably not ideal. But where we really ran into bigger issues, there was no markers in the bag for the boundary, and there was also no stumps. Apologies, there was 2 stumps. 2 stumps. So sort of between the other coach and I, the other coach just said, well, we'll put 2 stumps at the other end. We'll have a off and a leg stump, and we'll have no stumps anywhere else. And I was like, I think that's a bit rogue, because if you get bowled middle peg, you probably have to be out. And so instead we went with 1 middle stump at either end and made the kids play still the normal 10 overs from each end with just 1 stump at each end. So that you're very, very stiff to get given LBW. I did actually give one as well in that game.
You're kidding?
Yeah, well, here's Plum.
Do you give someone else? Do you give them out bowled if it just misses the middle stump?
No, that's not out, unfortunately. That's not out.
So, Leighthal, how did you go when you were coaching them there, Leighthal? Your philosophy is about hitting the topper off.
Yeah.
How did you go with that?
Yeah, that was difficult. I'll be honest. We beat the bat a few times, and sort of I got a lot of complaints. So that would have bowled him. We're like, well, boys, come on. You just got to play it as it lies. Play the ball as it lies. The other issue that we had, which was a significant health and safety issue that I probably shouldn't admit to, but obviously with the lack of boundary markers, we made every single student take their backpack out and form a boundary in that fashion. So that was our boundaries. Unfortunately, what I failed to take into account was that there was sort of a very good hook shot fielder at deep square leg. Obviously one of those ones where you sort of try and test the boundary rope, and he's got up and tried to catch it and landed on top of a bag, which really was not good for 2 reasons. A, probably the guy's knee was not in great shape, and B, obviously old mate's sort of laptop that he had in the bag was significantly damaged as well. So really probably not my finest moment in terms of cricket coaching. But Mitch, I think Tim actually coached a few school games while you were playing, didn't he?
Yeah, I think so. I was playing for Redlands College at the time. I think, Tim, you were still at Cleveland then.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember umpiring one time against you, and I thought this bloke, I wasn't sure if he'd repeated a few years, but he had a bit of growth on, and I thought he's well advanced, and I had a couple of prepubescent lads playing in my team. I can only assume that, actually. I remember standing at the control end one time, and one of our bowlers thought he'd try and bump you with a shorter delivery. You were standing probably at the southern end of that Fitzroy Street Oval, and you proceeded to hit a pretty large stick over onto one of the picnic tables, and I think I actually was umpiring. I can't remember how you got out, but I'm pretty sure I appealed at the same time. So I gave you at the same time, just to get you out of the way. We had you lined up as a sort of take the head off the snake, and the rest of the body will crumble. That's what we thought. So I think I might have shotgunned you there.
Yeah, right. Perfect.
But Leighthal, in your situation there, Leighthal, you've forgotten the 6 P's of teaching.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Are you familiar with those 6 P's of teaching, Leighthal?
I think I'm familiar with a couple of them. I didn't know there were 6.
Perfect preparation prevents piss poor performance.
Right. Yeah,
and in that case, there you just weren't prepared, were you? In that case, getting onto the bus.
Really struggled.
That's all right, mate.
The worst thing was that I was messaging you whilst I was meant to be umpiring, saying, "Is there anyone that can bring stumps down?"
I thought I was the third umpire at one stage.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
you referred to me for a decision, and yeah, mate. But that's all right. We all make those sorts of mistakes.
Oh, totally. Yeah, exactly. See, as I tried to tell you that. Now that we actually do have you on the phone, Tim, I thought it was probably a decent chance actually to just speak about a couple of things that probably relate to quite a few of our listeners. You're actually a junior coach of your sort of children's touch footy and cricket sides, and we'll get onto that a little bit later. But in your experiences, do you think that that I guess that mistake ranks quite highly in terms of the amateur cricket folklore that you've been involved in, or have you seen other situations that top that?
It's certainly etched into the memories of those kids involved in our school, and I reckon it'll provide a bit of fodder for them in their reunions to come. The time they had Dreno for cricket, and he made them put their friggin' laptop bags around the boundary. Oh, look, everyone makes mistakes when they're teaching, and I've heard about working in TV. You don't work with children or animals, and we're working with kids all the time, and there's always funny things come up. I remember actually the first time I on my prac lesson, my first ever prac lesson I taught would have been about 17 or 18 years ago, and we were doing a unit on, I think it was psychology with weightlifting at the time, and had the kids all broken into groups. It was an all-boys school I was at, and all the boys in their groups, and I thought, this is great, I'm going to get them in small groups so the teachers sees me working with different groups of kids. And they had to present back on a bit of paper about their thoughts about something. I can't remember what we were talking about in regards to psychology, but I got this one. I asked this group for a spokesperson to get up, and I actually I asked them to write their names on a bit of butcher's paper so I could get to know the kids' names as well. And one kid, I can't remember what his name was, but he had Powerball written in brackets as his nickname. So it might have been, it was like Leigh Powerball Drennan. Now, Powerball, I said, Powerball, I'll try and I'm thinking to myself here, I'm a perfect chance to try and get a bit of a story, get a bit of banter with the boys happening. I said, Powerball, who's Powerball here? And this fellow sort of reluctantly stuck his hands up. All the boys are sort of, laughing into their armpits and that sort of stuff, trying to avoid the eye contact. I said, mate, Powerball, that's an interesting nickname. How do they give you Powerball? Oh, no, it's all right, sir. I won't go into that too much. Oh, come on, mate. What's the story behind that? Did you win lotto or did you win something like that? He said, and then one of the boys just finally popped up and said, no, sir, he's only born with one nut. So that sort of, so that's an example of where, it's just, you got to keep your back close to pad, and you got to be careful. There's some things that are out of control. Speaking of your thing with you missing the gear, I remember a similar sort of situation where I take rugby league teams as well at our school. I have in the past, and you often get in the bus and you've got no, you've got your jerseys, you've got your drink bottles. You get there ready for warm-ups and you've forgotten your ball. And there was one instance where we forgot the ball, so a group of Year 9 boys and myself came up with a pretty shifty idea to use one of the spare jerseys and all the socks that the boys took off for their from their school uniform to replace with their footy socks. We rolled that up into a ball, into a jersey, and that became our ball to use in the warm-up.
That would have been tough to kick for touch.
I'll tell you what, the boys' kick chase in that warm-up was unbelievable. Their game, because they couldn't boot the thing too far. It was a bit of a bludger of a ball, and we were on the song, but it didn't really help us too much in the game from memory. But yeah, there's always plenty of, and actually in cricket as well, we've also we've had all the gear, but minus we had one bat in our team one year at a previous school. So in that instance, we always had to revert to the old backyard rules of dropping the bat.
Drop the bat. That's perfect. You should bring that in one year, I reckon.
Sometimes some club teams always look like they've got one or two bats in the team. Every player uses a sponsor's bat, and every bat looks the same.
We try to steal as many of Haz's as possible. I need one this year if you don't mind, Haz.
That's right. So there's obviously plenty of those sorts of stories, Lisa. So you're not alone there, mate.
That's fantastic. The next thing I was actually going to ask you about, I guess, Tim, was a couple of things. You're teacher, parent, junior coach, and you sort of have to juggle those three things. And I think a few people could sort of relate to some of these, I guess. How do you juggle between being sort of the loving parent that you have to be, but also having taught with you and having seen some of the teachers in the PE fraternity? There are quite some competitive PE teachers, like somewhat probably more competitive than the kids sometimes. So I'm wondering how, they obviously don't like to be beaten by their students, so I assume that's probably something that you struggle with sometimes. How do you find that balance between your kids' junior sport, having to make sure that you want to win, but you also want your kids to love you still?
That's right. It's actually a really tough thing to get to know, get to try and think about. Like when I wanted to be a teacher for a long time when I was growing up, and part of that real big interest was about coaching my own kids and seeing them develop through sport, because I obviously grew up through sport and I loved it. But now that I'm here, it becomes quite of a burden, because it's almost like I do all the teaching stuff during the week, and that's great. and then you've got to back up again for the afternoon sessions and the weekend stuff. And as soon as anyone in junior sport finds out that you're firstly a teacher and then a PE teacher, you sort of get pushed into things, and that's all well and good because it's something that I really enjoy. But it is tough because, like you say, PE teachers are quite competitive. I mean, most of us, like myself, we were just one injury too many away. We had one too many injuries. Otherwise, we'd be on the professional circuit still.
Obviously,
and it's a pretty slippery slope because I'm probably one injury away from being a full-time math teacher as well. So there's a few things there to consider. But yeah, certainly some of the people that I work with, they do have a bit of white line fever, and when they cross that line, and you still have to try and contest against these kids. I mean, when I'm coaching my kids, it's a dilemma because I'm a competitive person. I like to be successful, and even though it's an under 8 or an under 10 team, you think, oh, how they're performing is a bit of a reflection on how I'm going. As a coach. And
you don't want to get sacked from your under 8s team.
Oh, mate, as soon as you get the full support of the board, you're in strife in that sort of division because you're going to get the knives out. But it's tough, and like often you find yourself you have a public persona and you have to talk to the kids. You talk to kids in a really positive light because you want them to enjoy the sport. You want them to enjoy the benefits, the health benefits of being involved, but you want to be successful as well. And it becomes a bit of a moral quandary, I suppose, because you say these right things to the kids because you can know their parents are listening. And then it's like, okay, kids, 2 minutes before the game, huddle up. You bring it in tight and you bring them in for a real quiet chat. And that's when you start laying the law down about tactics. Okay, forget all that stuff I said before about playing nice. This is what we want to do now. So it's probably not the best mentality sometimes. But, it's certainly a moral dilemma. And I've actually found myself, to some extent, it's almost like you become a bit of a ventriloquist out there because, you know, those comedians get up on stage and they try to move their mouth and they got the dummy moving away next to them. I feel a bit like that, like a coach in the sideline, because I find myself encouraging our kids in a really vocal voice. And if a kid on the team's doing something that's a bit dirty, I find myself sledging them out of the side of my mouth and just trying to tell them to pipe down a bit or get just a couple of little subtle hints to the referee about maybe getting people on side or subtle things like that. So it's a bit of a moral. I'm just creative. Yeah, often. And the bad thing is sometimes they're kids from our school who are refereeing, and they're getting a bit of advice, a bit of free advice out of ours. I don't charge them for that. So it is definitely a moral dilemma, and I'm still sort of finding my way through it. The kids are enjoying it. I'm enjoying it at this stage. And I think eventually my kids will probably get sick of hearing my voice at home as well as on the field, and I'll probably go after other coaches maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's quality.
Yeah, right. Tim, so I mean, we've heard plenty about your teaching career. Obviously, you've got quite a few tactics there. I was wondering what else you've sort of done throughout your career, like prior to teaching. Have you got any big success stories from earlier on in your employment?
Not really. I've probably had a couple of little gigs going through school. I was a boarder at my school, so I picked up some part-time stuff just on weekends. And one of the things my brothers and I used to do is we used to deliver the old Bayside Bulletin, Redland Times newspaper around local suburbs throughout the Redlands here. And it wasn't too bad in the winter, but you used to go driving around Dad's old VN Commodore, and you'd be in this sea of newspapers in the back seat, and you're dead set. You can just see your shoulders out of the car, and the rest of the papers. It gets really hot and sweaty back there. Yeah. The papers, the plastic starts sticking to you, and you get real. It's a very humid sort of environment. And Dad's keen as I am to get this job done, so he's scooting along at a fair rate of knots, and the pressure's on. You're like a scrum half trying to flick the ball out to your 5'8", getting rid of these papers. And occasionally, when it's all around over your lap and on the sort of seats next to you, easy enough to get that distribution happening. But when those rogue papers get under the front seat and you sort of got to go into the ruck and flick them out real quick, what I found was we'd go to grab one, and because of their sticky paper and you're sweating it up back there, you'd go to release it out to the back line, and the paper goes, and you got left with a little plastic sleeve in your hand, and you look like you've dropped the bloody catch in the slips because you're looking at your hands going, what's going on here? And then all of a sudden you hear Dad say, oh, mate, you're right. Everything all right there, mate? Yeah. And as you look around, you can see this almost like seagulls in the background. It looks like a seagull flying in the rear vision mirror. It's the paper just spewing out all the bloody pamphlets and all the stuff going flying in the background. Yeah, Dad, we're fine there. But one other thing I'll say quickly is the only other job I've had before being a teacher is working at the local Woolies here, sort of going through uni, and I used to work in the produce section there, happy days, but I was also trained as a checkout chick. So occasionally the old service 80 call would get sprung through the shop, and that was always when you had to go duck for cover, because that means that it was really busy. You had to go to the checkouts really quickly. I used to avoid going to checkouts because I used to get a sore back from standing up in the same place for a long period of time. So anyway, as I get called to the checkouts and they're serving away, no, I've got through the first match as well, I got through the second one, I'm a chance of going, and no, there's still people more lining up. And then I finished this really big load, and as I said, I used to get this sore back. So as I've gotten rid of that custody, thanks for coming, see you again soon, I've sort of arched my back, I put my hands into my lower back and just sort of stretch back like you might try and stretch your stomach, and sort of pinch the shoulders back, and then the next sort of movement is to flex at the hips and try and roll the shoulders forward and sort of bend over. And as I've done that, I've looked up and I've said, "Oh, g'day, miss, how you going?" And sort of bent over and stretched my back forward. And it was an Asian lady who was there, and she said, "Oh, good, sir, how are you?" And she bounced back to me. And I've gone, "Oh, gee, wasn't expecting that." So anyway, I've proceeded to serve her, and happy days, whatever. And then I sent on my way, and then sure enough, I got sent back to the produce after that. Soon after, about 2 hours later, I got a call up to the manager's office, and I thought, "Oh, what have I done here?" So I've headed up to the manager's office, feeling much like I was at school, about to get called to the principal's office, thinking it's going to be bad news. And then when I got up there, the manager at the time proceeded to tell me how impressed he was with my service of our customers and my cultural sensitivity in serving customers. And as a result, I got this lovely $30 brushes gift voucher to go and spend at the local brushes store because of my cultural sensitivity. And I had no idea what I'd done. And then I went back and replayed the series of steps beforehand, and that was it. The old stretching the back to say good day to the lady. So happy days. But
at least
that was years and years ago.
At least his reward wasn't for you to be like a full-time checkout chick from then on.
Yeah, that's right. There's a real lesson in that, Tim, that everyone should do their stretches.
That's right, exactly right. Particularly, when certain people are walking past. Yeah, just pick your target.
Absolutely. Tim, that's magnificent. We thank you so much, obviously, for writing into the show, for listening, and then for getting involved. We've really loved having you on, mate. Thank you so much.
Pleasure, boys. I'm just going to go have a drink of Alchemy right now.
Oh, good boy. That's outstanding. Thanks, mate.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
See you, lads. All the best.
Thank you very much, guys. That was Tim, and listener of the show, obviously first-time caller, as you heard, but it just goes to show how we do love people communicating with us, and there is obviously one place that they can do that, and that is the wegotthechocolates.com.au website that Skinneld has created. Mm-hmm. And Skinneld, we also have a new idea, or I guess thing that we want to try and launch now. It's obviously a thing very close to Haz's heart. And we've heard a little bit of chat about this in the past. But I guess inspired by Christian Welch last week, the interview that we had with him, he spoke about how he'd sort of, I guess, what did he say? He spoke about this type of thing, actually. Let me play.
That and every sports team's got the bloke. It's the tightest bloke you've ever met in your life.
Oh,
and
Sam Haslett.
We've got one of the...
So that was the chat that we heard from Christian. So we had a little bit of chat about this, and obviously you remember that Christian sort of brought up the fact that there was one particular story about him wearing a hoodie and taking that back, returning it the next day. I think I actually have the audio for that as well if we need it. But obviously, you've found yourself on the end of a couple of nominations of this sort of chat before. I've got one clip or grab to play for you there as well.
Sorry, man. Obviously, we haven't branched out to the gymnastics section. Haz has been too busy talking about rock climbing and surfing, so we haven't got to gymnastics yet.
We'll get there eventually.
Yeah. Well, that doesn't surprise me. Two things that are free to do, surfing and rock climbing. It's a pleasure to be on the podcast with the most fiscally responsible person in Australian cricket.
That's a nice way to put it, isn't it?
That's nice. That was winding back to episode 15 there with Luke Feldman, who is involved again as well. So Haz, what we want to launch here, and we've got the all clear from you, is a TOAT team, basically an 11. We're cricketers, I guess, so we're going to try and keep it at 11. But the TOAT, standing for the tightest of all time, is the 11 that we want to try and look for. We've also made it very, very easy for people to send in nominations to obviously go with Christian Welch, who's already nominated, his friend Dane. We've already obviously had Sam Haslett nominated. Mitch, can you explain a little bit more just about how that is going to work for us?
Yeah, I can try. It was your initiative or idea, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, obviously. I'm just trying to get your word count up. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, thank you. But yeah, I've sort of been in charge of trying to build the website, so I sort of had to put it in there. But basically, if you go to the website, wegotthechocolates.com.au and scroll sort of right down to the bottom, where there's always been a little just sort of getting a contact form just to get in touch with us. You can send us an email. There's now a new addition where you can send in a voice recording, basically. Right. So you'll see a little start recording button. I haven't actually done it myself yet, so I don't know what goes on. But
luckily for you, Skinner, someone actually has done it. And this voice will sound familiar again, but this is someone that we have got to test it out for us. And they've got a nomination in for our third member of the TOAT 11.
Hello, we got the chocolates. Luke Feldman here. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
It's not actually true because it's been on before.
I'd like to submit my nomination for the Tightest Of All Time 11. And what a great concept that is. I'm sure all your listeners are going to get behind it. But it might surprise you. My nomination isn't going to be for Haz, because I already assume Haz is captain, coach and bus driver because, let's face it, he's not spending any extra cash on any of those luxuries. My nomination is going to be for former teammate and premiership winner of the Brisbane grade competition for two clubs, Valleys and the Gold Coast. It's going to be good mate from Townsville, James Spargo. My nomination for James is that he turned up to a club fundraiser with his own alcohol. So no money going over the canteen for the club. Can't wait to hear all your nominations.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Luke Feldman, for trialling that out for us. So that's how easy it is, people can get online there. They can get on the We Got the Chocolates website. They can go straight to the bottom or the Contact Us section. They can record their own voicemail. And obviously we are going to get some selectors involved to make sure that we do pick the greatest 11, the tightest 11 from the nominations that we receive. Probably has to be a 2020 team because obviously more lucrative. More cash involved in the 2020 competition, so we'll try and make that well known as well. What are your thoughts, Haz?
Yeah, no, I love it. I was going to nominate another teammate of mine at the Queensland Bulls, Bryce Street.
Outstanding.
Until you said it was a 2020 team, I think he's made a name for himself for being taking up quite a few balls out in the middle. But he's definitely one of those. He's always bringing breakfasts on tour with him. He'll bring cereal in his bag when we go play in Perth or we play in Adelaide or whatever. He'll bring Wheat Bix in a plastic container down on the trip. He always going to Woolworths to buy dinners instead of going out to restaurants. So it's certainly one we can add in there.
That's good, Mitch. You've got any that spring to mind?
I do have a tight individual that springs to mind, and I assume if Dane Weston's involved, it's not strictly a cricket team.
No, not a cricket team at all. No.
Yeah, okay. So one of the blokes at work, I'll use the chance to give him a bit of a shout out, although I won't name and shame him because I'm not sure how proud he is of this. But he cops a bit of stick for this at work all the time, anyways. And he's been caught. Well, he admitted to it. It sounds like a sort of criminal activity to me, but he basically goes into Coles, fills up a bag of almonds, takes them through self-serve and scans them as dried apricots.
Oh, that's the reason you're not naming and shaming him. So
that's his tactic. And then also he's just a very good negotiator. So he's moved in, I think, to a new apartment a few months ago now in well, I won't say that, wherever he lives, and was having the trouble of trying to connect up to some sort of Wi-Fi, right? So trying to do it with Telstra or Belong or whatever, and just he got in, he still didn't have any Wi-Fi, and he just decided he was just going to use his phone data until he found a cheap enough option, and then realised that his neighbour runs an Airbnb. There were just always sort of people coming in and out of this Airbnb that sort of hit like in the unit upstairs or whatever it is. So he's gotten in contact with the owner of the Airbnb to organise pretty much bumming off his Wi-Fi in exchange for making sure none of the Airbnb guests damage the property or anything like that. So that's sort of a way that he's managed to save money. He just gets free Wi-Fi and has to check upstairs every now and then.
We can't put him in our list of 11 if we don't know his name.
No, well, that's true. We'll have to get a written nomination off you at some stage. Sorry, Skin, to show the selectors. Right, so you might have to let him know he's in the firing line when you get to work tomorrow.
All right, can do.
So that should give our listeners just a great example of sort of some of the nominations that we're looking for. We will get a little graphic for you on social media, so keep an eye out for that on our socials, and we very much look forward to your nominations there. We've tried to make the process as easy as possible for you. That will be...
Well, Leigh, you've gone from being a part-time teacher to now to pursue your career in podcasting. That's true, isn't it?
Well, that is true. Yes, that is true. So I've gone reverse tight ass because I've given up all options for making money.
Well, I mean, seeing as though now you're doing that, you might end up being on this list, until the podcast goes worldwide. You might have to find ways.
That's correct. Yeah, that is true. I have been looking for ways to save money already. And I find myself a lot quicker to ask Mitch to pay me back for stuff like dinner tonight now.
Oh, yeah.
Have you done that?
Yes, I have. Although I don't think it was enough, to be honest, because
You're a pig.
Also need to be in the tightest of all time. I sent you the last $12 in my account.
Yeah, fair. Sorry, Haz.
You're still working full time, aren't you, at the moment, Mitch? How are you travelling on that front?
Yeah, still going. Everything. I think our work's sort of strange. We've just sort of carried on as if nothing's happened. I think, which has probably made me nervous about the whole social distancing thing. I didn't even realise the 1.5 metre thing until you pointed it out, because I've been sitting a lot less than that away from the blokes I work with for the last couple of months. So that was
we haven't
great.
mentioned where you work, because we're going to get a lot of people in trouble.
Yeah.
Well, you work for a clothing company.
Yeah, let's say that.
Okay.
So does the clothing industry really count as an essential service to society? Like, what's going on there?
I don't know. I wouldn't have thought so. I thought I was in some real trouble when that got announced, to be honest. But I think the definition is anyone that has to go into work in order to keep their job counts as essential. So it's a pretty loose definition. But
I don't think
I was surprised.
I don't think people are going to rip or stain every shirt they have in their house before lockdown is over. And,
We can't have people walking around butt naked though, Haz, as well.
Well, if they're locked down in their house, doesn't matter if they've got a stain on their shirt or something.
That's true.
Well, I'll tell you what business is essential and is still up and running for those in need.
I was wondering where this was going.
Well, I mean, Alchemy Cordials, of course. As an individual, you can still visit their website, order whatever you fancy from their range of coffee syrups, classic cordials, smoothie bases, chais, frappes, superfood elixirs.
Yeah, right.
That's good. That's very good. That's true, actually. And that is essential, to be fair. I mean, I have tucked into a chai tonight. I gave that a chai. What in the world? I've gone 3 tonight.
Quit it, would you?
Okay, so and the chai was magnificent. Skinnell, any you've had this evening? You're looking actually quite sprightly. Yeah, you are looking up and about tonight, I would find. Word count up, so I'd assume that something has gone into the system.
Yeah, well, I'm flattered, but I was actually going to take the opportunity to complain about your use of my coffee machine, because no, I haven't had any beverage this evening, because I came home and tried to make myself a coffee and found that half of my bloody portafilter basket thing was in the bin. So that was nice.
That actually serves you right for not making yourself a little turmeric latte where you wouldn't have needed the coffee basket.
You can even use the Alchemy bottles as a phone stand. I'm using it here to record ourselves. And,
yeah, that's true. That's brilliant.
Holding up the camera there.
Yeah, so really, Skinner, you had that coming. Bad luck.
Okay, yeah, it was all my fault.
Skin. Here is one that we have been waiting for with seriously bated breath.
You just have to wait. He says stats don't come easy. Works real hard, a lot at stake.
Yeah, right. What a tune. It's been a while.
Heard that. Yeah.
All right. So skin stats. Obviously, there's no sport going on at the moment, so I've sort of had to look for stats elsewhere.
Just can I interrupt for the new listeners out there? Sorry, Skinner. For the new listeners out there, Skin Stats hasn't been a segment for a long time. The whole premise is basically that Skinner is a science freak / mathematician, looks at spreadsheets all day. So we try and we try and sort of utilize his skill set and give him a segment that he excels in. Is that well summarized?
Learn a few things off him.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's overly generous, but sure, that's the idea. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways,
don't be humble here, Skinner. There's no time for that.
Okay. Yeah. True. Yeah. True. We are running out of time. Let's go. So what did I say? I alluded last week that it was sort of coronavirus related in the absence of sport, and there are obviously plenty of stats that have come out of the coronavirus situation. For those unaware, we're up to I think just over 3.5 million cases at the moment, and nearly 250,000 deaths, which is obviously a big issue, right?
Huge issue.
Yeah.
And that's a similar amount of people that were at Wellington Point today as well. So
yeah, surely. Anyways,
also a large issue. Sorry.
Good candy. So I could get interrupted one more time. I'm in the first
Hurry
paragraph.
up with
Anyways,
this.
what was I saying? Anyway, so Australia sort of seems to be getting things under control, which is nice. But yeah, I've obviously been checking sort of all the updates. You can go to the Johns Hopkins University website, and they've got a nice little map and plenty of graphs and stuff. And you can have a look at pretty live updates, I guess, every day on where the situation's at. And I've noticed that there's always a logarithmic graph of the number of cases, as well as sort of the normal standard linear graph. So I wanted to sort of take a chance to discuss that. I figure, Haz, you might be sort of clued into the difference between a logarithmic and a linear graph, but for anyone like Leighthal out there that probably isn't, might be worth discussing. Is that fair,
That's fair,
yeah. So basically, on a linear graph, if you look, it's just, it'd be the normal number of cases after each day, sort of thing. So if you move up a certain distance on a linear graph, then you also move up a certain number, right? So you might start at 0, move up the axis 1 centimetre to get to 10, and then another centimetre to get to 20, and again to 30, and so on and so on and so on, which is nice because that's sort of intuitive and linear, and that's sort of how we think, which is great normally, but it's not always a very good representation of a situation. For example, a virus which doesn't grow or spread linearly, it spreads exponentially, right? So for example, I think the coronavirus, on average, if one person has it, then they'll pass it on to 3 people, and then obviously all 3 of those people pass it on to another 3 people each.
Right.
With me?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, right. So it spreads quite quickly, right? And you can imagine if you started with one person, you would, after a few days, it's sort of like thousands of people are adding. So if you were trying to graph that and keep sort of the nice small growth in at the start, but then also the hundreds of thousands of people adding every day towards the back end, it would end up being like almost a vertical line going up, and you wouldn't sort of really be able to differentiate.
Okay.
I wish our listeners' count would go up exponentially like that. That'd be nice.
You're not wrong, Haz. Yeah, we're just in the early days, mate. We'll get there.
Haz is going to go vertical.
But yeah, anyway,
probably after this chat.
So basically, if you're looking at that sort of vertical line of the exponential growth, it's just not really showing you very much. You can't really tell exactly what value it's at certain days and stuff. It's just not all that useful, right? So you might use a logarithmic scale, which basically, rather than every time you go up a certain distance on the graph, rather than adding a number, you're multiplying by a number, right? So you might start at the axis at 1, go up a centimetre to get to 10, which is the same as the linear thing. But then if you go up another centimetre, you'll get to 100. Rather than getting to 20. And if you go up another centimetre, you'll get to 1,000 rather than getting to 30.
Right.
With me?
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, right. So then if you're plotting something like the spread of the coronavirus, by the time you're getting to sort of the millions and stuff, that you don't need to go up very far at all to cover the huge gaps that are happening every day. So it sort of flattens it out and just gives you, it's just an easy way of looking at a really massive spread of data, and it gives you a nice indication of like when you've actually stopped or managed to slow down the spreading, right? Because if you look at a graph of, say, the US, I think every day they're still finding like 20 or 30,000 new cases at the moment, which is quite scary. But if you look at it on a logarithmic scale, you can really see that it has started to flat out, and it's so they've actually managed to slow it down a little bit, which is nice.
Yeah, that is good. Okay, yeah. I was unsure of how that works, so that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm sure you were really wondering about it, Leigh. I just had to take the chance to explain that.
It's interesting stuff. Interesting. You need to be able to read graphs. Politicians are always throwing graphs at you, like trying to prove things, but you can find any graph to prove what you want, can't you?
Yeah, there are plenty of great examples of that. We don't like to get too political, but I remember seeing so many debates about like climate change and stuff. And what was that? That I think a Q&A show, and they had an English physicist come on, Brian Cox, and there were politicians just throwing graphs. That was funny. Anyways, we might be able to get that in the show notes or something. That was good. But yeah, there you go.
All right,
that's that.
Lovely, Skinner. Very, very good. Very handy. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Fantastic. Now, we are going to move on to... this is one that we actually put out on Instagram a little while ago, I would say, but it requires me to play this intro.
Lassoed by Tallis. Look at Tallis. Look at Tallis. He drags him. You're simply the best. Better than all the rest.
Yeah, so it does relate to NRL. We put out a question on our social media pages. So we said, what would you change if you were in charge of the NRL? Controversial topic. Everyone has their ideas of how the game should be run.
Did you graph this, by the way?
No, I didn't do a graph. I just did a list.
So. If you were going to do a graph, were you going logarithmic or what's the other one called?
Linear.
That's right, linear.
I don't know, maybe just a bar graph.
Chris
I
Linear.
have to go bar graph for this one. Okay. So first off, we've got Adam Johnson, who says he wants to make players or clubs honour contracts, because if people are always, leaving their contracts halfway through the 4 years or whatever it might be. So
I don't mind that.
Yeah,
That makes
that's
sense.
a good idea. What
Seems
time's
hard to do.
yes. Individual cases.
Yeah.
Aaron Dixon decreased the pay gap between the top and bottom paid players, which is an interesting one. I mean,
Yeah, we're seeing a bit of chat about that, like even within tennis as well at the moment, aren't we? It's sort of like, obviously, John Millman, who we interviewed, has been talking about this for years. He spoke about it on our podcast. And there's guys like Dominic Thiem out there that are saying, oh, well, the guys that are coming 800s in the world don't try as hard, so I'm not giving them any money. So there's definitely some different ways to look at it.
yeah, it's a tough one with how you reward those top players,
Yeah.
Thoughts there, Skinner? Looking very pensive.
I haven't thought about that far enough to comment, I don't think.
Ben Heinrich, I think that's how his
that's
say
perfect,
his name. Allow fights NHL style. Get it out of their system. Sin bin them for 10 minutes and get them back on the field. A bit of a biff here and there is all right.
Tell you what, that would bring some crowds back.
Yeah. Oh, they used to do it a lot. You watch those old Origin games and there's just biffs.
Yeah, they didn't even get binned for it either. It's like, all right, boys, and kick for touch.
Josh Neal have a concussion reserve for a player ruled out by the doc. Might be a good idea. They do that in cricket now, don't they? So
Yeah, that's right. Get Marnus in. First NRL concussion sub as well.
Hugo Brown, better enforcement for better crowds and have more teams. I don't know if you dilute the talent by having more teams, but I don't know how you can ensure there's better crowds out there. But it'd be nice if there was great crowds every
So
game.
about better
Like
crowds,
better
we
is
meant in terms of security. So he's going to
Like more well behaved. Is that what we're talking
Yeah,
about?
probably.
Is that what he meant, or does he mean get more?
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Jackson Todman wants him to stop acting like soccer players, which has crept in a little bit there, trying to
The milking,
get
like
milk
milking
penalties.
penalties.
Yeah.
Okay.
Matty Campbell, my dad, and myself all said we should play more games at regional grounds, at smaller grounds.
I still love that you write back the ones that you put up. That's the main thing I've taken from that.
wanted to be noticed. So
Are you hoping that one of us is going to write back to you?
no, I just wanted to remind myself, don't forget it if I put it in my own segment, don't do I? So,
No, very true.
get the game to regional areas. Mac Triffett have a state of origin tournament including other states as well. So he wants, I guess, a WA team in there and a Perth. Sorry, I forgot who said that, but a South Australian team and a Tasmanian team. I don't know how they'd fare against New South Wales. Maybe you give like Islander players to them if they're from Tonga or Samoa. Let them play for those teams.
Not about
That makes sense.
Malcolm Black, players should get remunerated based on performances.
Oh, okay.
I guess they could do that now if they wanted to.
Super coach type system.
Would be very tough to do a salary cap in that situation.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
true. And
Someone's
does that sort of contradict the idea about decreasing the pay gap, or would that increase the pay gap? What would happen?
I don't know. It depends
It depends.
Yeah.
How would you make like stats worth? Like would a tackle be worth $1 and
Per minutes you play, you could do.
Cameron Smith would still be on some serious coin in that case.
But I think that probably would decrease the pay gap, because I mean Cameron Smith obviously would rack up some serious stats, but would he rack up like that many more than?
Yeah, well, how do you quantify the quality of those
that's
stats,
right.
though? The
It'll be
quality of the
interesting.
tackle or the quality of the pass or
Like
whatever
versus
it is.
someone that like kicks a field goal when the game's on the line in the semi-finals or something. Like, it'd be hard to know what counts as a good performance, I guess.
Yeah, true.
Mallow has also said that the longer you play at a club, the less your salary should count towards the cap, which I think is a great idea.
That's actually brilliant.
They've got to try and find a way to do that, I think. And Eloise wrote in. She wants a wise words with Wheeze segment.
A wise
I don't know what that has to do with NRL.
I think we just had a wise words with Skin segment. I think that's what the Skin
That
start
was
segment
proper
is.
wise words there.
I wonder what sort of wise words Weez would be offering.
I don't reckon they'd be the same type of wise words.
Nah.
Where's anything? You got any ideas off the top of your head?
So that's
nothing. Absolutely nothing. No further thought gone into it at all.
But yeah, that's about it for our responses. What do you think of the criticism the NRL have had recently about poor handling of their money, versus the AFL maybe?
Yeah. It seems that AFL is going to come out of this with a lot more respect and tact. By the look into, if you listen to obviously the media, it seems as if AFL probably are looking in a better light as opposed to the NRL, who's sort of had chairman quit, CEO quit, and everything else. So, then I think like Cricket Australia is under fire from a few players as well about their handling of money and the ACA trying to get more. So it seems like this whole pandemic has just sort of brought that into focus, I guess, is where the money actually goes.
Must be tough. Like, the NRL is competing with AFL, but also competing against rugby union, and they both want to spend enough money to make sure they're the top football code at the time. They probably think if they don't spend the money, then they're going to slip and they're going to end up getting no money coming in because the other codes are going to spend the money and be the top code. So I guess rugby union's really struggling. They're probably struggling the most out of the three.
They are struggling.
And sort of falling off a cliff a bit there. So
true.
Yeah, tough.
Very fair.
Tough ones.
Now, you are actually going to take us through. Even though there's not much sport being played, there are still a couple of sporting talking points that people would want to know about. And you've tried to highlight a couple of those interesting ones. What do you got for us?
Well, recently the Australian men's cricket team took over as the world #1 ranked Test and T20 international side. Only a few days ago that was announced. Despite not having played a T20 in over 2 months,
T20 one.
And a Test in about 4 months. So
yeah, that's right.
What
was our last test? Our last test was New Zealand.
Yeah, in like January.
Yeah, it's end of January. Well, probably started January.
So it's been a while, but I guess they must do some sort of like a rolling points system where even though no points have been added on, because no recent games, some must have fallen off the back end. And
little article I read on Cricket 2 today has that you might like to listen to. A professor, I won't name him because some of the things are quite silly. Professor, a renowned physician in Sri Lanka, has proposed the use of gloves by on-field umpires and face masks for the players when we return to cricket. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I mean, I'm sure umpires could wear gloves and face masks if they want to be okay, but I don't think the players are going to be doing that.
The player going to wear a face mask under their helmet.
Yeah, I don't think
not be able to breathe at all.
I think you'd get an interesting answer if you asked Luke Feldman to wear a face mask on the cricket field. I'm not sure he'd be too happy with that.
Absolutely fair. And then the one where I really think he loses me here is so players should definitely stop applying saliva as it's very infective in relation to COVID-19, and it's a very unhygienic anyway. And in the future, the elbow bumps and fist pumps will replace the high five for wicket celebrations. Any thoughts there?
Well, maybe the butt taps will maybe it's already starting to overtake it. So
yeah, that's true. That is true.
Point.
Actually, Skinner, by the way, no, you go, actually, because mine was not as important.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know how important mine is either. I was going to say, if everyone, like if umpires were wearing gloves, would that actually help all that much? Because then the gloves would just touch everything that their hands were going to touch anyways, and would end up spreading it just as.
I guess they're just saving themselves. That's all. They're just saving themselves.
Right, but not really helping the spread.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I wouldn't think so.
They're not gonna rub sanitizer on the ball, I don't think.
Yeah, that's right. Skinner, also new skin stats segment for you.
Okay.
As you get older, do you get less fit? Because I went down and did some wicket keeping training today to shoot a couple of videos for a cricket coach, Spud, and I did this drill that I used to do. He used to do with me when I was 16. This 40 catches drill. I think you've done it before.
Yeah.
And honestly, I nearly went into cardiac arrest after it, and I used to think it was quite easy. So I feel like that's really not saying a lot. Obviously out of season, but I don't think I should be struggling that badly.
Yeah, okay. Well, I can have a look at it for you. I will say, I don't know what your workout regime's been like, but in lockdown, since my gym membership went on hold, I have done nothing. So that could also be another contributing factor.
That could be a factor. That's true. Having said that, I have been drinking a lot of flat whites, so you'd think my energy was up there.
Probably also a few beers. Apparently alcohol intake has increased during lockdown. So if that's been...
Apparently alchemy intake has also increased. Saved them.
What in the world? Okay. That's a pun.
Carry on.
Another one, the New Zealand Warriors are now in Australia, however, without the services of Nathaniel Roach, who has stayed home with flu-like symptoms. I wonder what it's going to say in the casualty ward explanation there. Like, player, Nathaniel Roach, injury, flu, time frame, season ending.
Season-ending flu. That's true. The season-ending flu shot.
It's a bad injury nowadays, having a flu.
Very fair.
And former UFC middleweight champion Luke Rockhold says he was walking his dog the other day, and there was a sick woman lying down at a bus stop when he walked past.
A fascinating story. Obviously not that initial line, but then what you're about to read.
Yeah. Out of nowhere, the woman got up and started chasing him and spitting at him.
Whoa.
And then these are his words describing what happened next. And as it got close to me,
no.
I just reared up with just a vicious front kick and launched the thing in the air, just like instinctually. and the thing just went up, landed on the ground, and literally started quivering like a vampire frying in the sun or something.
Whoa. Do we know if this guy is a drug addict? Because that really sounds like he is on some sort of serious, how would you say, illicit substance, I would suggest.
I think it's good that he was a fighter as a job, because he needed to get his aggression out somehow by the sounds of things.
Yeah, by oath. Kicking the thing. Outstanding. Very good.
That story just got weirder and weirder.
I told you. I tried to warn you.
It was like every line, my eyes would just go, what is happening?
It was loose. I don't even know. Where have you found that story, Has, by the way?
I think Fox Sports posted it actually, so other people have heard of it. But
right. Okay, yeah. Now, best on ground. It's a difficult one tonight, but the charts are heating up. Obviously, a lot of guests getting the votes.
Yeah, they're comfortably in the lead.
If Skinner holds this up to the camera.
Yeah. Give
Feldman,
it a second.
strong.
Feldman took the first one. Yarn's the second, I think.
Welch,
and then
obviously,
Welch
was a
the
guru.
third.
Has got one sticker
Has
in
it
there
snuck
as well.
in there, yeah. And then, we can have a debate about who it's going to tonight. We've had, obviously, the three of us have featured quite heavily. We also had a call from Tim, and then
Tim was strong.
Even a little voice input from Feldman.
Feldman as well. Jeez, it's all. Yeah, you can't get the votes for 59 seconds worth of content though.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I'm happy with that. So we can rule
Tim
Feldman
was very good. I think I don't want to talk too highly of him. No, I think he might take my spot on the podcast if he.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. So we do have to do
true.
shit. Well, we know that Has can't get it because we can't let him go 2 up.
Yeah, good point. Yeah,
so it has to be.
That's
you
a
two
fair
are working
rule.
against me.
We can't give it to Has because that's fair.
Because we don't want it to get just ridiculous there for us to try and catch up on that gap.
Well, I can't say you were
Has
poor on
either
the
of us
buttons.
been?
I can't say you were poor on the buttons tonight, Lee. I think you were quite good on the buttons tonight. So
Yeah, that's true.
Come on,
Actually,
boys.
have been
Here
impressive.
it is. Here it is.
That's usually
I've still
what
got the outro to get through.
you usually struggle with that. But
Although I think I've really held the team together, Has, with my work on the cameras. If you haven't noticed, I've downloaded an app that lets me control one of the cameras from the table. So
he's talked to you.
So you guys saying that I'm the swing vote because you're not. You guys are not going to vote.
I'm
for
voting
me.
for myself, and Mitch is voting for himself. So it really is actually your.
You can't vote for yourself, so you're voting for each other.
Okay, I'm voting for Mitch.
either
and he's
way,
voting
you're
for
the
me.
deciding factor.
That's a lot of pressure.
It is. Well, don't overthink it. Just give it over here.
I think. I think Skin Stats has got Skin over the line tonight. So
No, that was a pretty good segment.
Look at me
actually.
go.
I'll give it,
Yeah, true. Actually, the big return that can't go.
The return of
unrecognised.
Skin Stats is huge. That's
There we
true.
are.
Okay.
Thank you, Has.
Happy with that. Happy with that. That is fair. I'll let you go there, Skinner. I'll obviously save mine for next week. We'll probably have another interview, actually, Has, won't we? So there's a fair chance the guests will get that as well. Damn it. I'm
get off the
struggling
mark
here.
one day.
That's right. Okay, guys, that is the outro song. Elevators Need Rock 2. And I'll tell you what we need, and that is to wrap up this particular episode. So thank you very much once again to all that were involved. Thank you to Luke for getting involved there. We do remind you again about the TOAT 11 and getting your nominations in there. Go to our website, please, which is Skinned.
WeGotTheChocolates.com.au. Yeah.
Isn't it ever? That's
is.
right. Perfect. And then we also obviously would encourage people, as you've seen, just to connect with us as much as possible through our social media means. Has, where would they find us?
Instagram, Facebook. We're on YouTube, so you can check out some videos there.
Great thumbnails been made there as well.
Lee's in control of TikTok. There's a few videos up there you should check out.
I've almost got to dance to you guys. That's going to be good. That's going to be
keep,
strong.
Keep involved.
Fantastic. And obviously, as you've seen, write in with any great stories that you have. We love hearing from you. We love talking about you. So if you do have some quality stories, we will probably look for an opportunity to get you on board. We love having other voices on the podcast as well. Is there anything else we need to mention, Skinner? There's a couple of things usually in terms of where you choose to listen to us, either it's Spotify usually or Apple Podcasts. We'd love you to obviously subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Give us a rating as well. That helps immensely. And Skin, we usually ask people to just, don't be selfish. Just share it. If you like it,
spread the word.
share
Why
it,
not?
Spread the word. Don't leave it all to us, obviously, because then it looks like we're quite, arrogant. We need your help. Fair?
Yep,
Indeed.
very fair. Happy with that.
Awesome, guys. We look forward to speaking to you again this time next week. Thank you very much for tuning in, and good luck in the future.
See you guys.
Bye.
Stomps.